Alrighty, hello Patreoners. Welcome to the Squad Show on a Wednesday night, Wednesday the 25th of June. Short turnaround from our main show last night on the main channel, and it is just me tonight. Jamie's done podcast 2 nights in a row the last couple of nights, so and he's got some family around as well, so we're giving him a break tonight, and a much well-earned one as well. It is a weird week with the fact we've got a Thursday night match coming up. It is just short turnaround, so this one will just be a short one because I haven't had much time to dive into it myself. I entertained the idea of seeing if we could get a guest on for tonight, but I just didn't even know when I was going to be able to get to jumping on myself. So it's just worked out that I'm jumping on here myself just to talk about this for a little bit. So yeah, we'll keep it short for you out there. But just run through the squads and everything we're looking forward to tomorrow night at Adelaide Oval as we face Carlton at 7 p.m. Thursday evening, tomorrow evening. As we say every damn week on the squad show, it is not a quiet week on the selections front from the Port Adelaide side, nor is it for Carlton, but it has been very much a thing for our year this year that we are making a lot of changes every week. It is nice this week that we do at least make omissions. Rather, they're not forced by injury. They're decisions made purely based on what coaches are wanting to do. Which is always a better place to be rather than, obviously, we'd like a few of these guys that are getting omitted to be in better form, but we also are making decisions based on merits and what we think the players can bring to the side rather than forced changes through injury. So it's a nice change from the last couple of weeks. So the ins, Alir is back after a week off with injury. Logan Evans is back. Gets a recall, which we're really intrigued by the journey of Logan Evans this year. Hugh Jackson is back after playing a couple of games and being dropped. He's back, and I think he's certainly warranting of a spot. He's been okay in his short time at the top level, and certainly not letting himself down at the Sandford level either. So, and a big one for all the, we're all Travis Boak fans. Travis Boak is back in after a fair bit of time off since the bye. Both, I think last week was illness. There was some management there as well. So. Yeah, those are the ins. The outs, obviously, these are all omissions, nothing forced by injury. Jackson Mead is out, which that one's been a point of contention for a lot of Port fans over the last few weeks. So there we go. He's out. Jeremy Finlayson has been omitted as well. Ryan Burton and Christian Moraes. Christian Moraes, I know a lot of people are a bit disappointed with that one. He is still a young player, finding his feet at the level. He's in and out of games. It's part of the journey at that age. We've still got a fair bit of, we can't complain too much about a young player like Moraes being dropped when we're dropping the one, Jackson Mead has also been called for, people have been calling for him to be dropped for a while. He does get dropped as well. We're bringing in the likes of Logan Evans and Hugh Jackson as well. So, there's some young ones are going to drop here and there. Manny Liddy remains in the side as well. There's youth staying in the side. So, can't get too disappointed in what we're doing there, I think. Yes, I'd love to play all the kids, but there's only a certain amount of spots. We need to have a balance it as an AFL side. And regardless of whether you think the season's over or not, even if they're playing out the year, you still got to, players that are warranting of a spot. And I don't think anyone that's in the side at the moment is not warranting a spot any more or less than a Christian Moraes. And Christian Moraes is a young player who will learn and get his chance going forward and will, I think with what he's shown, he will find himself as a decent, solid 22 player. So that future is coming for him, but he's still very, very young in his career, and these kind of decisions are going to be made, and I don't think we need to get too bent out of shape about them. So, yeah, that's where we're at for our Port Adelaide selections this week. Alrighty, so the Carlton Blues have also made 4 changes to their side. So they've got a couple of debutants actually in Billy Wilson and Flynn Young, alongside Jordan Boyd and Lewis Young coming back to the side as well. So there's 4 changes, a lot of youth. And the outs for Carlton are Corey Durden, Mark Pitnett, Jackson Binns, and Matthew Carroll. Probably some of the point of contention or concerns through the week for them was obviously Jacob Wiedering rolled his ankle last week's loss to the Kangaroos. He was a test today, and I guess he's come up. I think some of the things I saw was that it was still maybe a touch proppy, but his lateral movement and a lot of his movements were okay out of their captain's run or whatever they had out in Adelaide today. So I think while he's probably not 100%, he's deemed maybe the structure of the ankle is good. and he can move around okay. They're happy that he can suit up. So that's a big one for them. There was the news today, I think it was today, that Patrick Cripps was had been quarantined from the. It was really a throwback to COVID years when you're starting to hear the kind of way they talked about it. But Patrick Cripps was away from the group because he was battling some illness. But I think he's been named, and I think it's I guess there's a potential for a late change there if he doesn't come up. But I assume all intents are for him to play, and whether it's probably just a short-term bug thing or whatever he's dealing with. But it's certainly the short turnaround doesn't help for them with a couple of those things. But they've named Wiedering and Cripps in the side, and I'm just going to go move ahead with the assumption that those two are playing and will be fine. Certainly on Wiedering's side, Cripps with illness is a little bit more of one of those ones like who knows, but I'm assuming he'll play. I guess you just keep a watch on that one for any late changes on that front. Just looking through the lines quickly, I'm going to start with the midfield actually just to change it up this week, but because I'm on my own, I can do that. I think based and this is kind of swinging from last week as well. Really, a lot of our struggles came in just not being able to, whether it was a good, decent midfield battle maybe last week as I look back on it, not as one-sided as it felt on the day. It was a lot of some of the stuff around the ground, but they did. We got some luck from the centre bounce at times, and it wasn't a big discrepancy in clearances, but contested ball around the ground was a concern. And this is a team in Carlton that one of their strong points of their year has been. They just do get more of the ball in a given game. They average 10 more disposals, but where they really kill us across the season so far is they're averaging almost 20 more contested possessions a game. That's really a struggle for us in those bigger losses. I know we've had some wins this year when the contested possession count's been low, but we got smoked in it last week, and some of the bigger losses this year have been a real stain in the contested ball department, and I think we're going to struggle here again. We may not, we just need but there needs to be a change. There needs to be a change in intent. Or what they're doing, hunting around the stoppage and the centre bounce as well, just how they're setting up. I don't know what it is exactly, but we're just not winning enough of the contested ball, and that's ultimately leading to a lot more struggle throughout every game. That's why I think we haven't won a game well, or we've just been losing. Obviously, the Richmond game aside, there's no game that's been comfortable this year. I think it's just because we're not hard enough and contested enough with the ball, and ultimately, and obviously the turnovers have been a big issue this year. Again, this is a team that actually their average for turnovers is only half a percentage point different to us. So, but as we saw last week, Sydney were not too much better than us, but then also I think we're better than us within the game by 15, minus 15 on turnover. So that's on us to be cleaner with the ball as we're moving around the ground. But as far as the midfield goes, this is a game that does. It depends if Cripps is even 10-20% off. That might help us a little bit. But they got Adam Chera is having a great year. Likes Ollie Hollands and co through there as well. The big man in the wanted man in Tom de Koning leading. It's another dynamic, athletic, new age ruckman for us to deal with, and we've gone in with Vicentini and Sweet again. We assume they're both going to play, so we're giving that one more week. I think it's. Honestly think it's going to be Vicentini taking the lion's share again this week, and it'll be a really good test for him as a similar young ruckman that probably wants to model himself, as particularly as a young ruckman coming into the league now. You have to kind of model yourself after some of those with the more dynamic new age ruckman out there. There is differences in types of ruckman around, but the better ruckman, even your Max Gorns and Grundys and co, still can do more than. So de Koning will be a great battle for both of them. But again, I'm assuming based on the split between the rucks at the particular centre bounce, that Vicentini will get the lion's share, and Sweet will be more or less a chop out around the ground, and fairly he'll take a fair amount of hit outs around the ground as well. But yeah, it'll be an interesting battle on that front. We'll want to try and just even it up at the hit-outs a little bit, but it'll ultimately be around the clearance work. And, the big one for me that I want to see, we talked about it on yesterday's show, Sam Palpepper got up to 20% of, centre bounce attendances, and including, we were discussing it, his goal near the end of the day. whether that came from him being at the CBA. And on podcast, we were like, oh, maybe he did come up from half forward, but I watched it back today and he was at that centre bounce. It was him, Butters and Rosie there, and Vicentini taking the tap. I think Grundy kind of wins the tap, but it's Kane Farrell comes off half back. They work through a few handballs, and Pal Pepper's come off the edge of the circle and taking the handball received to go forward and kick the goal. So it depends. The midfield mix will depend for me a little bit on. I assume Jason Horne-Francis is fine. He's gotten through a game with that shoulder, but it depends still if there is some concerns and they're trying to protect him a little bit from some of the grunt work. Hopefully, the likes of Bergman and Willem Drew and anyone else that was affected by whatever the flu that was that went around last week, that's going to be the big unknown for me. The tanks last week looked a little bit empty, and that really contributed to some of that meant just the pure stamina as well as the mental tank, because they were just missing kicks and overcooking handballs and just didn't look quite switched on. So that's really where it's going to come down to me, because I think Sydney was a great test for us last week and we lose it slightly. But if these guys were genuinely somewhat, had their travails with the flu and whatnot, I don't know what data set you can actually take out of that Sydney loss on how our performance was, if there was a genuine 10-20% shortness in their abilities to go after their ultimate way of playing. Talking to myself is difficult on podcasts. I'm remembering that right now. To go after their ultimate level in performance. So that'll be the big key thing that I'll be watching for, probably immediately from the start. Who's matching up on who at the centre bounce. Does Bergman end up at the opening? Because Bergman's named at half, and back pocket on the team sheet, but he's been named there a lot and started at the first centre bounce as he did last week. Do they do that again? Does he go to does someone try to get to a Cripps or a Chera from the off? Or is it Drew? One of those, there's multiple options there, but then what their performance level is, hopefully none of them walking up saying I'm still crook. So that'll be the big test. And then I'd like to see Pal Pepper get a little bit more, because I think he just does provide that point of difference, especially, looks like we could possibly have Rosie in there a little bit more. I'd like to see him behind the ball a little bit more. Again, he's named as a follower. He could end up behind the ball. We don't know what the team is named as is somewhat of an indication, but it doesn't always mean anything. So we shall see. I'll be excited to see Liddy kind of get in there, in and around there again, as he does, just more involved in link-up play, being able to take some marks. He's took 5 marks last week. It seems a strong presence as far as a marking connective player through the middle there, and what he can do, whether it be going to halfback or half forward and just moving between the arcs and doing what he can do. So looking forward to that. It's going to be an intriguing midfield battle, though. They've obviously got their stars. Again, who knows where they're at with sickness and otherwise. But yeah, hopefully ours are all healthy, and we can just kind of make that mix a little bit more dynamic in the midfield. Again, I think we were a bit hampered last week with both illness and maybe somewhat just being protective of Jason Horne-Francis, because he was only I don't think he got to many centre bounces last week, and he was kind of just in and around there at times around the stoppage, but it was, we didn't use him nearly as much as we could have, considering we were missing an Ollie Wines, who, again, obviously is missing this week. That is also the fact that we do have, Boak will be back around, so if we can get, throw Boak into a few here and there, but I think the ultimate goal is that we want to core around the younger group, but, Pal Pepper can certainly play that, and I reckon he relishes it when he gets the chance, and I think he'll probably be, I hope he's gone to the coaches this week and said, look, give me a few more. Whether we get 25, 30% of them, I don't know, just give me a bit more and let me have a tangible impact on that game. And if it starts working, then keep me in there. I'm just intrigued by that again, as a lot of people are, and I'd love to see, considering we're missing the likes of Wines and where we're at with Jason Horne-Francis and his shoulder, and certainly he can help down forward as well. Being able to switch in Pal Pepper and Horne-Francis or whatever kind of mix you want to do would be nice. So, that'll be a fun battle. Looking at the forward line quickly, what do you say about last week? We said that in the episode last night as well. We don't know what to say about the forward line effort. Georgiades needs to kick straighter, clearly. 1 goal 3 last week again. But other than that, I think Darcy Byrne-Jones was handy. Willie Rioli was, feisty, just didn't get enough didn't get enough of the ball in his area. He starved of opportunity. Joe Richards could have had 2 goals, very close to 2 goals, had 1-1, and has an impact wherever he tries to go. And then, again, depends on the mix. Who's going to, I liked Vicentini's battle. Like Vicentini was involved in the Jason Horne-Francis goal, bringing it to ground. He obviously takes a mark and almost kicks a goal as well. Sweet, probably been a bit quiet when he's resting down forward, but it would be nice to see him pop up and take a few marks. But yeah, the mix is intriguing, considering the injury issues we have. I've been impressed with how the forward line's been battling. It's all about the entry and the fact that we starved of opportunity last week. Entries were hard to get. It was hard to get quality entries because we had as mentioned last week, last night we still got somehow got 19 marks inside 50 versus their 18. Despite the fact we had 15 less forward 50 entries, we just didn't get them into, I guess some of those marks inside 50 were, when Liddy marked, he handballed off to Rosie, and Rosie goes, I think Rosie was going to go for goal, but whether someone chopped off the lane, and so he goes wide to Moraes, he then pops it up forward. So that's 2 marks inside 50 right there that were just inside 50 and really didn't lead to anything. They were never really going to be. So whereas they're getting deep kicks inside 50, and to be fair, it was Joel Amadi missing goals that made that look worse. As far as the impact of their inside 50s look worse, they should have got more benefit from them, and they were certainly getting more quality inside 50 entries and deeper as well. So even though they didn't, we kind of matched them for marks inside 50. Their number of inside 50s did just work, and our marks just sometimes weren't in areas that really mattered too much ultimately. So they were shallow entries rather than the deep, more penetrating entries. That'll be the big test, is providing Georgiades opportunities, which I guess he had them last week, but a couple of them were, there was angled ones. You want to give him the opportunity in that kind of 45 arc out in front where he's leading in. Not that I mind him taking a shot from the boundary. He's actually not too bad with them, but we want to give him good opportunity to get his radar in. Obviously, the likes of Wheat, they've got a decent back line, but they're the Wiederings, the Sards, the Silvanis. Silvani's come back in and played okay this year, considering he's been in and out with injury and whatnot over the last few years. They're a reasonable test for our backline, but again, I think a lot of it comes down to, I think we've actually got some fairly good players down there that are working under the restrictions of the injuries we've got, and actually providing a good battle for opposition defenses. And as we saw against Melbourne, we were able to find a lot of joy for some of our forwards. GWS, which was a tight game, we just found opportunities when we could. I think these guys are battling really well. It just all comes down to the entry up front, and I think if we can work Wiedering, where Georgiades, I assume would be the match up there, and if you can work Wiedering and test that ankle, because I think he will. Whether he's gonna be fit, but he might have some pain there. It's not going to be, if he's had a significant role that they had to leave to a test for today, it means there's going to be some, probably slight swelling, aggravation to the ankle. So you just want to use that to your advantage a bit, make him work. Don't just play the game to his advantage. Get some leading lanes open, which I think we did a couple of times last week. We just missed chances, missed opportunities. We were too rushed. Sydney's pressure made us rush the entry kicks, and we weren't really able to do anything with that. So, there's some intriguing options there for us to try to work something out of this Carlton defense, and I'm excited for hopefully a little bit of a bounce back from that forward line, with obviously the added caveat of a bounce back for the midfield. It's all synergy. It all works together. You can't have one without the other. That's one of the frustrating parts of it, but it's the aspect of a team sport. All right, let's look at the defense. All righty, so the big one for the defense obviously is Aaliyah being back in. I think that'll help shore up some of that structure and that leadership down there. As I said, and we both had Esava in our best players last night in the main show for last week. He still was having to do a bit more, and maybe it was taken away from some of the really good things he did the previous week, where we were really, really cock a hoop about him. But still, I think he had a really, really good game, solid game against Sydney. A few of those mistakes, those highlight mistakes, but actually few and far between, but compared to the good stuff he's doing. So Aaliyah coming back, hopefully that'll shore up a little bit of the structure down there, which has actually been reasonably good, holding up reasonably well this year. Just weight of opportunity against them. Carlton do average a decent amount of inside 50s this year, so they will be under pressure, particularly if our midfield. If it is, I think it's going to be a true midfield battle. I think both teams will have their runs and the inside 50s. Hopefully, obviously, we just need to not be as bad as we were last week on the inside 50 front. 35 to 50 or whatever it was against Sydney. Even if we get shaded in inside 50s against Carlton, you just want to kind of be there or thereabouts. So I think it's the average for us this year is 50. Theirs is 56. If we can be within that range, then I think we're going to be doing okay for ourselves. But we just certainly want to restrict. And it's the quality. The thing with inside 50s, it's all about quality of entries too. We want to make sure, like Sir Cripps and Co, aren't getting just free run off of that centre, out of the centre. Or when they get their rebound game going, they're not getting too much free run through the middle and are able to get, deep towards half forward and be able to pick out targets. You need to be putting that pressure on up the field and making sure that, Kerno and Co aren't able to just have their way with us, so to speak. They are missing, let's just look at their forward line. They're missing, obviously, Harry Mackay's out, so Kerno is the main target. Mitch McGovern's been kicking a few goals, the little bits I've seen over the last few weeks. Fogarty's up there as well. But this is a side that I think our defense can manage. We've managed there's some forward lines this year that have some really good, I think we did a really, really great job against GWS of containing Aaron Cadman and obviously Jesse Hogan as well. That's kind of the benchmark for what I see of an Ilya, Zerk Thatcher, Asava triumvirate, and they seem to work well together. And then obviously the rest of the ground does make us sometimes a little bit tall down there when it comes to ground, but I think we can manage that. And it's all about the help around as well with the likes. And I think Lockie Jones coming back into that will help too. He's become much better. I think it was a two-touch Lockie for a while there, but I think he's become better in that front. And the likes of Sin and Co coming in there as well. Bergman's just an incredible player if he's playing across there. And then again, it depends if the midfield mix actually works the way it's going to. If Rosie does end up back there, Rosie's an incredible ground ball player, and I think he can do so. There is swings and things we can do depending on how the game's going to kind of shore up some of those issues, like magnets we can move on game day. But ultimately, I've got a lot of trust in that defense to be able to do the job at our best. That GWS game, that was a completely different game style. It was slow, turgid, cold weather football in Canberra. This is going to be a reasonably cold night. I think the maximum for tomorrow is 15 and cloudy, so we're looking at probably dip into the low teens, even if into single digits by the end of the game, maybe. So it's going to be conditions that will be a factor, but I think I just have some trust in that defensive unit if we're doing the job around the field, even if it's a battle, as long as we're kind of matching and it's a proper battle. I think that defensive unit can contain, but it's just going to be about restricting the quality of entry and not letting Kerno and being flexible in the matchups. I don't know. Zerk Thatcher or Asava go to Kerno first. I think probably I'd like Asava maybe. I've just got that. Yeah, that's just my thought. Trust in him, his athleticism to go with Kerno as well. Kerno's an incredible player, so it's interesting. Like Zerk Thatcher, I think he's coming into. He still just seems that, and he was a step off a couple of times last week. So whether that was the flu as well, it would just be nice to have Aaliyah kind of opened up to do what he does a little bit more again. The matchups will be interesting. It's going to be one of those ones where I'd like to just have that flexibility. Rotational. Don't let them get the matchup. Get the mismatch. We've seen that a bit less this year. That teams work the mismatches with us. Often somehow end up with Sin or someone like that matching up on a fucking Marty last week or a Kerno, or there's Sin with Fogarty. I think during the showdown at times, like there's working the mismatches at times. The opposition. So just watch that. Don't let that get out of control, and then keep Kerno under control, but then the other guys like Mitch McCoven and co that'll come in and try to get those opportunities as well. They're a dynamic team, and just moving along to some stuff before we close out. Wheelo Ratings, who I mentioned last week, had I think they predicted that I think a 60% chance of Sydney to win by nine or so points. Their prediction for this week is closer, but it's still they're still tipping Carlton's way. They've got Carlton by 4.6 points with a prediction confidence rating of 55.4%. So it's kind of a pick 'em thing, but it's similar to last week. It's funny. The betting odds were in Port's favour last week. They're again in Port's favour this week, and a lot of people are tipping Port. But I think there's metric things that do tip Carlton's way that make me concerned. And it's hard to say based on the fact that last week I think there's just so many mitigating factors, and the fact that we were apparently quite crook and all those things. So I don't know how much I can take out of that game beyond the fact we just should be better than that all year. So there were some things in that game that are just part of what we've been this year. Carlton have had some horrible losses this year, but they've actually played some good footy at times as well. So that's why I think them at their best have been better than we haven't had much best stuff this year. I'm doing quotation marks in the air for those listening. They've had some decent wins this year. They've had some good battles. I don't know, like Richmond one's the only one we've won comfortably. The Hawthorn one for a half was great. Adelaide was a genuinely good performance, just a heartbreaking one to lose. And but yeah, there's a lot of metric things that go in Carlton's favour, and particularly some of the clearance numbers they shade, contested ball they absolutely dominate. And they just end up with more of the ball. Their accuracy is a little bit better. Tackles, they get more tackles. It's just one of those games that I have my concerns about where it can go. I'm hoping for a great game. I guess I haven't done my footy tips yet. I'm leaning towards tipping Carlton just to get me like the old tip the opposition team and hope for your team to win thing. That's kind of where I'm leaning. I almost did it last week, but I was like, no, I'm pretty confident. And that didn't work for me. So I think this week I might just be going Carlton, and then obviously going down to the game will absolutely be obviously rooting for a Port Adelaide win. The tips thing is something to do for fun, but I do tip with what I think might happen. And when it comes to my team, I'll go the 50. If I'm thinking it's a 50-50 coin flip, but I have my concerns, I will pick the opposition just to at least get the tip if I get nothing else. That's what she said. I have my concerns with the game, but I'm reasonably happy with the selections, and I do hope that we can kind of bounce back from last week. And the season's on life support at the moment. It is, we've pretty much got to be flawless from here on in, and with one of the harder draws to come. It's a long boat to draw to say that we'll get anything out of this season as far as finals, but you just want to see continued improvement, win some games, give the team some hope going into next year that they're finding things to work on as they go into the new regime as it's coming. So I'm probably gonna say that if I went with my head, I'd say Carlton might just shade this one by 10 points, but absolutely hoping I go down there and I'm surprised and come away quite happy with a nice Port Adelaide win in Thursday night footy. So looking forward to it. As I always say, anyone that's going to be around listening and wants to catch up for a beer, get in touch on, you can just message on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I'll see it. Hopefully, and just reply to a tweet probably is often a good way for me to see things. Messages occasionally go like to, requests or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, hoping to come away quite surprised after tomorrow night would be nice. Not that it would be a great surprise. I think we do have the quality there to get a win if we can put it all together. It's just that is the thing. Putting it all together hasn't happened too much this year. So yeah, hopefully we could go in and have a wonderful weekend after playing a Thursday night match. But I am trepidatious. Thank you for listening as always. And thank you, of course, if you are listening to this, you are part of the Patreon, and we really, really appreciate your support. Nothing more to say.
CARN the pair.
CARN the pair. We'll see you on the main show next week.